Bruce Wanless from Brampton, Ontario. 81, I'm 81, just turned, I'm on my way to 82, about halfway to 82, so. November the 21st, 38, born and raised in Brampton. I was just known as Bruce. Now mind you, my coach, Mush Thompson, used to call me the apple pecker because I was tall, but it didn't stick with the rest of the world, no. I started my lacrosse career in junior with Brampton, and they were short-handed, and nowadays they wouldn't even looked at me, but they were glad to have a body, and so they gave me a chance, and I learned a lot that year. Now, an old neighbor of ours in the farm gave my brother and I a couple old sticks, and we had a big brick wall in the house there, and we bounced that ball off that brick wall for every noon hour and every morning, every rainy day we weren't farming, and so we actually got a good talent of picking, throwing a ball and also picking up loose balls, and it helped me greatly in my career later on. Always, well, except for the one year I played for Detroit in '68, but I played in Brampton all the way. Mind you, I lived on a farm just north of Brampton, and so I didn't play much minor lacrosse. When I was raising, there was 5 of us in the farm, 3 boys and 2 girls. And my dad farmed out there. My older brother, he got married and farmed, but my other brother, he got involved in lacrosse. And of course, when I was 13 or 14, I rode with him. He played for Streetsville Intermediates at first, and then he helped get the Brampton team going again, because it was slipped down there in the early 50s. So. Yeah, I better not forget that, the wife will shoot me. Yeah, no, I got married in '61 and still happily married after 58 years, 57, 8 years. 2 lovely daughters and 6 grandsons who all have played a form of lacrosse, and 3 of them are still playing lacrosse. 1 midget and 1 junior A, just finished junior A, and then Bantam. Well, when I left the farm, I was on a milk truck and threw milk cans back in those days, which helped me in lacrosse because it built up my upper body strength. But then I had a little wife and I had a little variety store, and then I joined the Brampton Fire Department. I had a great career there, 28 years, ending up as a district chief. So that was a great time of life. I was picked up for the playoffs. Actually, 3 times, okay? Actually, I go back to Wayne Thompson because him and I were friends and great teammates. And in 1960, when we first year senior, Port Credit picked us up to play against the West and won the Mann Cup. Unfortunately, the only Mann Cup we won. Then in 62 and 63, Brampton, we played the West and lost. 63, St. Catharines picked me up when we played the West, and that game was played in Cornwall. And then again in '67, Brooklyn picked me up when we went west to play the West and unsuccessfully. So, but it was good. We all knew each other. We played each other over the years so much. The nucleus of each team, we knew them all well. And so, they picked you up because they wanted you to help them, and we accepted that. And you walked in and sat down, took your place in the dressing room, and just as if it was your hometown. So we're all from the east, going after the west. So. I think George was a defenseman, but he played a lot of field lacrosse, and then he got playing box lacrosse in the '30s. And George was, as I say, he was more of a, what can I say? He was had good team spirit, more so than strategy. In 1956, we won. Actually, we were in 4th place down east here, and we came through and won down east to go west. We went by train, of course, and stopped in Winnipeg, and had a good, I think it was 2 of the 3 series with Winnipeg, and beat them, and then went out to Vancouver And by that time, we were starting to wear down a bit and had quite a lesson. A big Vancouver team with a lot of stars on it gave us quite a lesson. But I keep saying over the years, we were good learners because we bounced back, and then 57 and 58 and 59, we won the Minto Cups. So, and once was 58, I think I'd like to tell you about 58 trip west by train. Of course, we left Toronto, and 2 or 3 days till Calgary with 20 guys, and we had our own car. You can imagine the fun that was. We got to Calgary, and they took us by dayliner to Nelson, BC, because apparently Trail had won the Minto Cup for BC Centennial. So both teams were in Trail. So we went by bus to Trail, and we played there. We only played every other game. They did every other day. They didn't rush us through like now. They play 3 games in a row. But there we had a game in between to have fun, and we beat Victoria the first 2 games. So the powers to be said, no, we're not drawing enough people. We should go back to Victoria to play the rest of the series. So we packed up and went by bus to Vancouver and took the ferry over to Victoria. And we were there for 3 or 4 more days probably by the time we got there. And once again, we beat them the next 2 games, won 4 straight. So, but we had 2 great goalkeepers, Bob Savage and Pat Baker. And in fact, we won all the playoff games. We never lost a playoff game. We won the 8 down here and the 4 out west. And so then we came back on the train, got on the train, and headed her home winners. It was a party, okay, and I like to tell the story about Wayne Thompson. God bless his soul, he died 20 years ago, but I'm still quite associated with his grandsons, and I like to tell them the story about. You know, most of the bunks were left up, and we just put down 2 or 3 for sit around the tables and party. And if you got tired, you got up and went and laid down in a bunk and had a little sleep, and when you got back and joined the party again. So I'd had my little sleep and was joining the party, and all of a sudden out of the bunk comes Wayne, and mad, and rightfully mad. What's wrong, Wayne? Well, who put me to bed? We said, well, I think you went to bed yourself, Wayne. No, I wouldn't have. I would not have gone to bed and missed this fun. Things like that went on all the time. I was with Brampton except for the 1 year in 1968. I played for Jimmy Bishop in the Detroit Olympics. I had a very interesting year with Jim in Detroit. He was different than our hometown coaches. We were a little more relaxed, where Jim was, you know, very regimental and whatnot. He named himself after, what's his name in Green Bay? He liked to think he was Vince Lombardi. He sort of liked to think he was after Vince Lombardi. And he practiced every night of the week. And even when we played, we'd practice other nights. And he used to be really good on the weekends that we weren't playing. We would go and play Friday night, and he would play 9 o'clock Saturday morning. And Jim was good-hearted. He gave us the whole weekend off till Sunday afternoon. We went back and practiced again. But we did learn a lot from Jim, and he was a good coach. And the one thing that I stood out, and I still like to think, do it is, and he told me, he preached to us that we were professionals, and we wasn't just getting paid for it. It was how we acted on the floor and off the floor. And I always remembered that, and I always try to keep that in mind even now. You know. Actually, it was pretty good for that time of year. It was $50 a game, but they covered a lot of expenses. They tried to give you a bit of gas mileage for going to practices and stuff like that. And then we had bonuses. And when I went in to talk to Bishop, of course I was green. I was from Brampton, and he said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "Well, I think with my record, I should be up there with the top, you know. And if you're as smart as you think you are, if you want me to play that way, you'll put me there. And if you want me to play a little worse, I'll probably not." And he did. He treated me well. I got the $50 a game, which is top price then, and I think I picked up $500 extra at the end of the year with bonuses that he created. And so I actually, for back in '68, that was a week's wages. Yeah. Yeah, we all us ordinary players that played, we all got color TVs. That was the one thing. I think everybody ended up with a color TV. Well, actually, it was pretty small. Pro League was pretty small that year. There was Detroit. Montreal had a team, Peterborough, and Toronto. So we flew to Montreal and we flew back and forth from Detroit. And of course, Peterborough and Toronto had their regular teams. So, but it was a different experience. Brampton lost a lot of players that year because a lot went to Montreal, and there were 3 or 4 of us went to Detroit. So, but it was good. We flew back and forth. And then we flew twice out west. We flew once out west for an interlocking schedule that year, and then we played against the West in the finals. And actually, we should have beat the West, but we lost. So, good series though. Yeah, Jim, when we were at Detroit, Jim did, he got to know, actually it's Bruce Norris back in those days owned it, and Jim was a good talker and preached his style would go over good in the NHL, but and Norris did give him a crack at it, but it didn't go over well in the NHL. I remember them saying that Jim said, "Oh, you can't smoke in the dressing room afterwards." And old Alex Delvecchio got out a cigar and said, "Who are you trying to kid?" So yeah, it didn't. I think it only lasted a year, and then Jim was let go. Yeah. No, I never. He played out west, I think. I bet he played lacrosse, but no, I never did play against John. And I was big and strong, and I know a couple of my teammates said, "I think you could have held yourself against John Ferguson in a battle, but I think John was more of a fighter. I could hold my own, but I wasn't a fighter like John Ferguson was." Wow. Well, back when I played, especially in the first part of senior, Martin was the big stick, and you would give your eye teeth for a good Martin, and I can remember going down maybe on a Wednesday afternoon, if you weren't doing nothing, going down to the reserve, and Six Nations, of course, and finding Martin. And when you got there, he always enjoyed a drink. So you'd get there, you always took a bottle of rye with you, and when you got there, he was right out of sticks. He might have had 1 or 2. So you would sit there and chat with him, talk about lacrosse and whatnot, and have a few more drinks, and then all of a sudden he might have 3 sticks for you. So by the time you left, you probably brought 5 home with you. Yeah, and then Logan came in. Logan started after. Maybe Logan's were maybe about the same time, but Martin was the Cadillac of sticks. Yeah, the Martin stick was a nice, a lighter stick. The Logan's was a little heavier. Yeah. I guess I was 32. The kids were getting older. The wife was a little sick and tired of me going out playing lacrosse, and the floor got longer and longer. I found running up and down it. But then I also found sitting in the dressing room after the game. Of course, back in those days, we all sat around in our underwear and had a beer or 2. And I always found the young lads were all laughing and joking about what they'd done 2 or 3 nights before, what I'd used to do when I was that age. And I found that they were talking, and I was sitting there sort of by myself. And I guess the light comes on and says, "Yeah, it's time to retire." Yeah, Wayne Thompson took over the coaching job a few years after we retired, and I helped him. And we coached the Brampton Juniors for a few years, but then I think neither one of us were great coaches. We were better players than coaches. So, but it was good. Those kids still come up and call me coach when I see them somewhere. Yeah, it would have been the 1970s when I helped Wayne coach. Yes. Well, I think Jack, as far as known for the game, Jack Bionda was one of the greatest. Mind you, there's a lot of good players now. Bobby Allen was a great player. These are the ones I played against. Of course, before my time in Lippitt, there was Gaylord Powless. Not Gaylord. I played with Gaylord in Detroit, but there was Ross Powless, his dad, and he was, a pretty hell of a lacrosse player from what I gather. So yeah. But in my era. But Peterborough always had a good team. Johnny Davis, of course, was a hell of a player, great player, and you could go on and on. I hate to start saying it, how many, because I'd miss some really good ones. Yeah. the game has changed since I played. The 30-second rule was probably the main thing that changed it. I played a few years with it, and it had to happen. We had always had a big, slower team, and you'd get a good, better lead on a team, and it would slow down. Long Branch had a young guy by the name of Flory Tom Chisholm, and he could drag the ball for 3 or 4 minutes, you know, and the old, as I say, the old hometown enjoyed it, but you know, for new people, it wasn't the spectators. They needed the game speeded up. So I see where they've changed the offense defense, and it makes a good game. I've adjusted to it, but I think it was nice to be able to play both ends of the floor. Yeah. We talk about the offense defense, yes. And watching it, I've often thought, I think if I was an offensive player, I would once in a while I'd drop the ball to the defensive player and say, "Here, you take that ball. I'm going to check you," because it was kind of a little equalizer. You know, if you treated the guy too mean at one end of the floor, you knew you were going to get straightened around at the end of the floor, and that was one good thing about it. We used to call the old wooden stick the old equalizer, but I don't think it happened too much. Like a fellow like we mentioned Bobby Allan all the time, but nobody took advantage of Bobby Allan. He was good. You didn't slash Bobby Allan very much because he'd run around you, so you had to check him legally and fairly, you know. And I think back in those days, Bobby Allan didn't pick up a 6'2" guy. He would pick up another guy, and one of their big defensemen would pick me up, you know. So I played rural hockey and very successful. I was always the captain of the team when I look back on it, usually. This is maybe off the lacrosse subject, but a year ago, I had a real good friend, a very successful businessman, had passed away, and on his deathbed, he asked me to do a eulogy. And so I went back to when we met each other in high school, and I did a half-decent eulogy in front of 600 people. Very proud of myself. Back in those days, I didn't say much, but I do have some good pictures, and the one good picture of Mush Thompson, the coach, and Wayne and Bert Naylor and I, we were on the whole 4 Eastern Championships, and then there was 6 of us on the one that won the 3 Minto Cups, and Dave Beattie, Bob McClure, Bob Savage, the goalkeeper, great goalkeeper, and Bert Naylor and Wayne and that, of course, and Mush George Thompson was the good old coach. I would look back on it, I don't think his strategy was that great, but he had great team spirit. Yeah. Yeah, well, I kind of think we played 2 ways. In ¡59, when I won the Denham McIntosh Trophy, I was a great defenseman, but I was also second top scorer. You know, and nowadays they just can't do that. And I think that's something that's a little hard on the kids, because they don't get the glory. The offense gets more glory than the defense usually. But back in those days, you were both, eh? And then I think they brought in the 30-second rule, which back in our day we used to rag the ball pretty good. if we got a bit of a lead, we had always had a fairly big team, and we could rag the ball. And our hometown fans thought it was great. We won, but it wasn't great for new people. I'm sure Bobby Allan had a lot. Bobby was a great ambassador to the game, great player. I had the privilege of playing against him, and he's a hard man to check. Well, it seems to struggle all the time, the game does in the future. So I'm hoping that, now that Halifax has got a league, it spreads it out a bit, and the West seems to be a little stronger. Now, I always had a little get-together, and they talked about if they could get the game into the Olympics, it would open it up and get more interest in it. So hopefully it's a great game. I've had fans going down to the Rock games with me. I've had season tickets up until now, and they would say, it's so much faster and more flowing than hockey. They don't have offsides. They don't stop for face-offs. They just throw the ball in and away they go. So hopefully it keeps going, yeah. Yeah, I would just like to comment and wrapping up that what a great comradeship it was for lacrosse. So we always said we were playing for the love of the game. We weren't playing for the money. Nobody was making any money out of it. I think a thing that stands out in my mind was when I was with Bishop in Detroit. He got me throwing a long shot on goal, winding back and getting a good shot away, because I'd never done that much before. So afterwards, we were playing. I was playing with Brampton. We were down in Peterborough, and I got the chance. I wound up and shot and scored. And John Davis said, "Bruce, what a great goal." And this is what went on, I think, all the time. If you did something great, even though he's on another team, we all appreciate each other. Grant Heffernan played for Peterborough, and he had a hell of a shift. And we all would say, "You're hard to stop." There was a great comradeship there.